I have a friend called Carrie who just broke a story to me. Not sure if it's petty or pro-revenge or even malicious compliance, but here it is. Done on phone, and autocorrupt hates me. T-letter at the end. The cast. Names have been changed to protect identities. Carrie, my friend, and the heroine of the story. Sharon, the secretary with loose morals. Roger, it manager and villain of the story. Ivan, the CEO and company owner, also owner of 3 or so other small companies, one of which was in the same office block. Olivia, Roger's wife. Carrie works for a small IT company as a programmer and web designer along with about 8 others, including her manager and her newest colleague, Sharon the secretary. Roger is a womanizing rogue who makes frequent moderately offensive comments about women, customers, and staff, like he has no brain-mouth filter. Sharon is, as Carrie puts it, an upwardly mobile skank who will literally, yes, actually, blow the boss if he buys her new shoes. So, boner for a bonus. And she has had a bonus, just not for productivity. The first Carrie knew about Sharon's behavior was late one Saturday afternoon, when everyone had left for the weekend, except Carrie as she had a project. She was beavering away at her desk in a nearly silent office when she heard a squeal. She immediately got up to investigate and found her boss door ajar. She heard another squeal and walked in, finding Sharon bent over the desk with her skirt hitched up above her hips, her boss. Trousers round his ankles, balls deep behind her. Yes, this is artistic license, but that's how she described it. Roger's expression indicated fury and embarrassment, and he sounded to be mid-nut. Sharon had an expression like the cat that had the cream, with no pun intended. She certainly didn't seem bothered about being caught. Roger recovers his composure, puts his trousers back on, and called Carrie back into the room. She hadn't stopped to watch, and threatened to fire her if she let slip what she'd seen. The instruction was tell nobody. Act like it never happened. It's important at this point to mention that this was at the height of COVID, and they were looking at the possibility of reducing staff numbers, something which fortunately never happened. But at the time of this story, nobody was sure. Carrie kept quiet. Ooh, that's nice alliteration. Roger would occasionally remember that she knew what he was up to, and would give her dirty looks, but little more was said. Sharon and Roger were still having regular sex at work, and Sharon was getting the bonuses that the team should have received. She was also receiving boners, but nobody would have felt jealous had they known. One Saturday, about 6 months after the initial shock discovery, an opportunity for revenge and technically malicious compliance presented itself. Olivia, Roger's wife, popped in. The staff were still there, and the office was busy and a bit noisy. Roger had excused himself to his office with Sharon, early as he knew his wife would be in later to meet him, and wanted to get his end away before she arrived. She was early. Olivia was standing at Sharon's desk. Sharon was the secretary, after all, and Carrie saw an opportunity. She offered to help, in the absence of the secretary, and Olivia asked to see Roger. Carrie obliged. The next bit is a little vague, as Carrie skipped some details, but apparently, she knows how to get past the lock on his office door, like the door frame is a little too big, and that's the vague bit. Carrie was able to open the door as if it wasn't locked, and hold it open for Olivia, who walked in to see her husband screwing the secretary from behind. Olivia's eruption was one of incandescent fury, which caused Roger's excuses to melt away. He was trying to explain that it wasn't what it looked like while pulling his trousers up. Sharon, meanwhile, had tried to discreetly leave, but Olivia had turned her full wrath on Sharon's direction, so Sharon excused herself by asking Roger why he'd never told her he was married. He had actually told her, but the ruse worked. Roger stared daggers at Carrie, but she told him that she'd done as he asked. She had never told anyone, and had acted as if it had never happened, just as he demanded. Olivia asked what she meant, and she explained in painful detail what had been going on. With Olivia screaming blue murder at Roger, Nobody heard the big boss, Ivan, arrive. He must have heard the ruckus and come to investigate. At this point, he'd heard enough from outside the office, and Carrie was asked to leave. Roger doesn't work there anymore, and neither does Sharon. Sharon was dismissed for gross misconduct, and Roger is awaiting a court date. Something about fraud or embezzlement or something. Details are sketchy here. No information about his marriage. Sorry. Carrie is still at the company, but now works as an assistant manager to a newly appointed female manager. The elder manager screws around and threatens staff to keep it secret. Staff does exactly as told. Manager gets caught, humiliated, and fired.
Next story.
For a few years in my early mid-20s, I worked as co-manager of a women's clothing store, a popular American chain. I was good at my job and got along beautifully with all my coworkers. Many of us are still friends now, a decade later. The wonderful store atmosphere flipped 180 degrees when my lovely store manager was shifted to another location, and upper management hired someone new to take the top role in my store. I was a little hurt to be looked over for a promotion, but happy to continue doing my job as the store's second in command with a team I loved. The new store manager, Lisa, was a nightmare from day one. From smoking cigarettes in the stockroom, to time theft, to rifling through my coworkers' purses and trying to unlock their phones, Lisa was immediately shady as hell. She was also amazingly aware of our security camera system, making sure she was always out of view when doing her shady shit. I wanted to report her, but I couldn't prove anything yet, so I decided to keep a close eye on her for now. 6 weeks in, I caught Lisa stealing a blouse from our stockroom, and she knew I was onto her. She said she was only trying it on, while she stuffed her ripped-off sales tag into her jeans pocket. On my break that day, I made a nervous call to my scary district manager, Ann. I relayed my concerns about Lisa's behavior, but even now, I had zero hard proof. Ann dismissed me and told me to get back on the sales floor and just do your job, and get some more customers to open store credit cards. You're lagging. 2 days later, on my next shift at work, Lisa pulled me into her office and put me on an unwarranted 60-day performance improvement plan. The writing was on the wall. Lisa was preparing to fire me because she knew I was aware of her shenanigans. The 60-day PIP was timed such that Lisa would work me to the bone over the Christmas shopping season and fire me as soon as the busy season ended. I told my coworkers what was going on. They all hated Lisa too. They all had stories of how they caught Lisa stealing, snooping, smoking, snarking customers, or simply being a slimy shithead. Then one particular coworker friend told me something she witnessed. Lisa would routinely type in random social security numbers to increase in-store credit card applications credited to her. Lisa's insane success in getting customers to apply for credit cards, sometimes 10 per shift, was why Ann loved her so much. Together, a handful of us hatched a plan. The day before Thanksgiving, I walked into the store for my shift. I shakily handed Lisa my signed resignation, effective immediately. Lisa didn't expect that. She now had to work to cover my shifts today, this week, and likely all holiday season. And then 1, 2, and 3 of my part-time sales associate friends quit that same day too. Nearly half of the store's staff was MIA within a few hours. When I got home from resigning, I called the company's loss prevention tip-line. I informed them of a single timestamp on our computers that they could use to trace a single credit card application that Lisa had run with a random, false social security number. Fraud, in other words. I hung up. I slept soundly. I enjoyed every moment of Thanksgiving, knowing Lisa would have a shitty, understaffed Black Friday and beyond. I knew I'd find another job, no problem. I felt at peace. Around 2 p.m. the next day, Black Friday, the busiest shopping day of the year, one of my former coworkers texted me. Holy shit. Lisa was walked out by 2 cops, and Ann ended up having to come in and work her shift. Lisa was never heard from again. And Anne, who dismissed my concerns and who normally spent her days in a swanky corporate office, was forced to work the lowly sales floor the entire holiday season. She didn't get any customers to open up credit cards that entire Christmas season. Not even one. And me. A week after I quit my store co-manager job, I found a cushy office job that paid me double and never had me working nights, weekends, or holidays.
Next story.
This all happened in a new country, I don't say which one, sorry. I did my apprenticeship in a mid to big size factory as a machine operator. After I completed my apprenticeship, I worked in the production for around 1 month. Then I got called into the office and they asked me if I can do some holiday replacement. So I said yes, why not, better hours and clean work. I got teach the systems, which was pretty because I manufactured those parts for 1 year. After my coworker came back from their vacation, they asked me to stay and became a part of their team. So I said yes, sounds good. So I was now working in the sales/quality department. Now to the present time, 7 years later. Our team increased from 5 workers to 15 because of restructuring, which helped us a lot. My boss retired last fall. And after Christmas, we got a new young boss around my age, 27, who was a major asshole and sexist. We got a few weeks before him a new hire, a lovely young girl, age 19, which I trained her. If you are new, you are doing some error, which is totally fine in my opinion. So I come in last Tuesday to hear my new boss screaming like a maniac at this young girl. I asked her what happened, and she said she filled the wrong form, which happens even to me. My boss noticed it and screamed at her. I paraphrase it. Boss, you stupid little slut, who dumb can you be to fill out the wrong form? I should fire you and make sure that you never find any work in this field again. Coworker started crying at this point. Then my boss stormed into his office and slammed the door shut. I asked my coworker if she's okay, and she was still sobbing, so I brought her a coffee and took her to our office grandma. Everyone loves her so much. I was at this point pretty pissed and told everyone what happened. After they learned what he did to our new coworker, 3 stormed into his office and quit after 25 years in this company. Next boss said to them that they are worthless and overpaid. They told us that, and a plan was formed. Everyone will quit except for me for now. What my boss didn't know yet is we had a huge customer audit happening in 3 weeks, which I am the only certified to prepare for. If we failed this, it would cost us 15 to 20 million euros, and the customer would pull the contract. So after my boss learned that the whole department quit except for me, he was even more pissed. Boss, hey, why the hell did everyone quit? Me. Maybe because you are asshole and a sexist pig. Boss, what did you just say, you asshole? Me. You know what I said. And do you remember the big audit in 3 weeks by customer X? Boss, yeah, what's about that? Me. You know that I am the only one certified to prepare it, right? Boss, yeah. And me. I quit as well because I do not want to work for such a asshole boss, see ya. And walked right out to my other coworkers to say goodbye in the whole factory. The production fit noticed it and asked what happened, so I told him. And he was pissed. He called the CO, which I knew pretty well, and said, Robert, the shit hit the fan big time, come down to the production floor now. The CO asked if it's important, and the VP said, if you want to pass the audit in 3 weeks, then move your ass down here now. So the CO came running down with the entire C-suits and asked what's so important. Then I piped up and said our whole department quit today and won't come back until this motherfucker of boss gets removed and fired. Then they asked what happens, and we told them. They were mad and asked how they can fix it. I said fire him and hire a better fit. Because I held the most trainings and qualifications, they asked me, which I gladly said yes. So we took off to my new office with my old department and the CO in tow. My boss saw me and said arrogantly, decided to came back and beg for your job back, you little R-word. Me, not just to inspect my new office, 'cause you are fired by now. He laughed and said that I am under him and only the CO can fire him. So the CO came around the little corner and said to my boss, If you kick out of my company, you are fired, and I make sure that if you come PNY, Neno was what you did. My ex-boss was white as a sheet. After that, the CO called the police and reported him trespassing. In the end, I got a 70 raise and a bonus option, which I declined and asked if we can split it for my coworkers. I don't need that much money. €1 million worth of bonuses. My CEO agreed, and everyone got their job back, and we complete the audit without any fails. The customer was happy, and so we are too. If you have questions, I will answer them in the commands.
Next story.
This happened a while ago, but I've been thinking about it recently. TLDR at the bottom. When I was younger, I worked at a casino. For those that are unaware, casinos, at least then, use a different time format for when you start work. If you're scheduled 8 p.m. 4 a.m., you actually start at 7:45 p.m., 15 minutes early for your shift. You get tapped out by your replacement at 3:45 a.m., so it all works out. You're working 8 hours. At the casino I worked at, you could clock in at the XX 31 for your shift, meaning if you were scheduled for 8 p.m., you could clock in at 7:31 p.m., but not start your shift until 7:45 p.m. On the flip side, if you clocked out before the XX01, you wouldn't get paid for the time. So if you stayed on the floor for that extra 15 minutes, you didn't get paid. The place used a 30-minute time period, but rounded to the hour. Dealers would work 1 hour, then get a 20-money break with a string of 4 people and go on break at the 20s. 12 o'clock, 12:20, 12:40. Floors would work an hour 20 with a 20-minute break and go on break on the 10s. 12:10, 12:30, 12:50. If you had the last break of the night, you had the EO, early out, break. If you were dealing, the person ahead of you would take a short 10-minute break. They'd tap you out, and you could clock out at XX 31, knowing you'd get your full 8 hours. If you were a floor, you'd go on break at the XX 30 and then clock out at XX 31. It worked until a new person got promoted. We'll call him Dandy. Dandy was a company man, through and through. This was the guy that bragged about never calling in sick for over 15 years, never taking vacation, and would pinch a penny until it screamed. Dandy started making people stay later, even after their replacements had shown up. So you're starting work at 7:45, but being made to stay until 4 a.m. on the dot instead of leaving at 3:45. Sometimes he would just make you stand in the pit, maybe sort cards or muck checks on a roulette game. If you were a floor, he'd make you just stand there and watch a game. He was the only one that did it. What's worse is that when you'd say something like, "Hey, I'm off at 3:45, not 4, he'd launch into his patented Dandy style, which consisted of him telling you that the company is paying you to work until the top of the hour, so you're going to work, and followed up by either, "I've never called in a day sick in my life, so 15 minutes won't hurt you," or "I haven't taken a vacation in 10 years, so 15 minutes won't kill you." Dandy had forgotten one thing. By requiring people to be on the floor at a quarter to the hour, we weren't actually being paid for that time, because we'd already done that time at the beginning of our shift. Here comes Maggie. Maggie has been a floor person in Vegas, Reno, Tahoe. This old gal had been around the block and had made her way up to my casino. She'd forgotten more about flooring and dealing than most people ever learn. She didn't deal with fools, and Dandy was a fool. Word comes through the gossip to start clocking in as soon as we can, each time we work. If you walk in at XX 31, clock in. Don't wait until the XX 45. Same thing with clocking out. Wait it out, don't complain. Start volunteering to do it with other pits. Maddie is starting to keep track of all the times people are kept after on her shift. So, now hundreds of dealers on all the shifts and all the floors are clocking in as early as they can and staying late with no complaints, and Maggie is keeping track. She gets the information and goes to the labor board. The labor department shows up, and all hell breaks loose. Shit gets real for the company. Accounting is going crazy. People upstairs are going crazy. They've been open for over 15 years, and people have been clocking in and out at the right times, until Dandy. Now, for the past year, everyone is clocking out at the hour, but still clocking at XX31. The Labor Board institutes a new time frame, based on 10-minute increments, and they have to pay EVERUNN for all their time worked based on those 10-minute increments going back several years. I was only a lowly dealer at the time, and I got a check for about $800 and mine was on the low end. There were some people getting checks for $2,000 to $3,000, all because Dandy wanted people to stay an extra 15 minutes. It wasn't a small casino either. There were probably around 200 dealers at any given time. Figure with all the dealers and floors getting paid out, it costs the casino anywhere between $250K to $500K. That's not even counting all the extra hours for accounting. After that, Dandy never tried to keep a dealer or floor later. TLDR, a new manager makes his own policy to keep people after their shift, assuming they were getting paid for it. They weren't. A badass old lady puts the word out to employees to not complain about it, and she called the labor board. Every employee ended up getting paid, and the company was out a lot of money.